أفوض أمري إلى الله إن الله بصير بالعباد ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني القرشي الهاشمي الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله الحكيم في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والمحصنات من النساء إلا ما ملكت أيمانكم كتاب الله عليكم وأحل لكم ما وراء ذلكم أن تبتغوا بأموالكم محسنين غير مصافحين فما استمتعتم به منهن فآتوهن أجورهن فريضة ولا جناح عليكم فيما تراضيتم به من بعد الفريضة إن الله كان عليما حكيما صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
We are discussing about the family structure in Islam, and we completed one of the most important tasks discussing about the spouse selection, especially the criterions we mentioned, and also Islamic perspective of spouse selection and how important it is. After selecting spouse, then the turn comes to engage in marriage. So marriage is something, as per hadith, it is mentioned as a sunnah of our noble Prophet. But this sunnah, it doesn't mean that it is not obligatory part. Once a person feels that without marriage he may fall into sin, it is obligatory for that person to get married. Islam never suppressed the emotions of human being. Rather, Islam directs it into a right path. There is a solution for every problem, and once we face that we are adult, we are young, and we need a partner, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prescribed in a perfect way so we can construct a family and enjoy the life and the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through it. We did mention other verses talking about the marriage, and during the course of discussion, inshallah, we use the verses relating to our topic. And tonight we want to discuss about very important and very hot topic, and rarely people discuss these topic on pulpit, which is essential, especially in the Western Hemisphere, and the people in advanced countries and advanced cities, and especially the urban areas, because of the advancement in communication, because of engagement in discussion and talking and in the social media, it is hard to control our youths from deviation, because majority of the facilities available online is deviating and destructive, and we can say it as a whispers of shaitan. And we need to find the solution from the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, which is already there for us. The only thing we need to do is we have to encash it without any hesitation. If any topic discussed in Quran, no one of us should hesitate to discuss on the same topic. And fortunately, Quran spoken clearly on these issues, especially in the issue of marriage, whether it is permanent or temporary. We can discuss tonight on the temporary marriage and what is our point of view regarding this, and what Quran says about it, what Sunnah talk about it, and what is the reality and what majority of the Muslims think about it. And some of the misunderstanding concerning this issue, we need to solve it and we need to discuss. And if anything remain undiscussed, I hope our brothers and sisters will raise it so we can discuss those issues in coming lectures, or even we can answer the questions if we have in our audience on its appropriate time. Let me translate the verse I recited and then we continue the topic. The verse is 24th verse of Surah An-Nisa. And as we know that Surah Nisa is 4th chapter, 24th verse, it says, "Unmarried woman accepting your slave woman. This is Allah's ordinance for you. As to others than these, it is lawful for you to seek union with them with your wealth in wedlock, not in license." It was in Arab tradition, they had several kinds of marriage. And they used to call it marriage, but it was most of them, it was not a marriage, rather it was a license, it was a contract. And some of them were very weird. And it was not even appropriate to discuss those kinds of marriage, those types of marriage they had in paganism before Islam. Islam banned all those kinds of marriage except the permanent legal nikah and the mut'a marriage, the temporary marriage. And this part of verse talking about the temporary marriage, which is called as mut'a marriage, for the enjoyment you have had from them thereby, give them their dowries by way of settlement, and there is no sin upon you in what you may agree upon after the settlement. Indeed, Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. There are many technical issues in this verse, and a huge amount of discuss is there between the ulamas of Ahlul Sunnah and ulamas of the Shia and the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And I think this is not an appropriate place to discuss on on those technical issues, because technical need a lot of prerequisites to knowledge about the grammatical point of view, and then the historical background, philosophical background, and then particularly the Quranic sciences we need to apply. So it's hard to discuss in a public places on those technical issues. Those who are interested, they can refer to the tafsir of Al-Mizan by Allama Tabatabai. It is there online available, translated to English as well. And under this verse, 24th verse of the 4th chapter, chapter Nisa, it is a very beautiful technical discussion is there. Those who want, or those who are interested, they can go and read that passage, and inshallah they can find interesting points in that. But what we discuss here is something which is easy to understand for all. There's nothing vagueness in it. And we are ready to debate with anyone on this particular topic. And of course, whoever among the Muslims, whether it's a Sunni or Shia, they are trying to find out the truth from the Quran. That has to be a motto of all of us. Our goal is to find the truth from the Quran. So if we are lacking of understanding, it is good to discuss and open up the channel of debate, and then we can sort out those problems. It is not something we can raise these issues on the road and streets and blame each other. Rather, it is better to look on the verse and translation of this verse and the historical background we can easily find out the solutions. Now, in the time of Prophet, all Muslims unanimously believe and have consensus of opinion upon the fact that in the first period of Islam, fixed-term marriage, which is called the mut'a marriage, was permissible. There is no doubt in it. Everybody agrees, Sunni or Shia. And the Holy Prophet, during one of his journeys, when the Muslims were away from their wives and passing their time in much discomfort, gave them permission for fixed-term marriage. Fixed-term marriage, or they call it mut'a marriage, was there before Islam. Rasulullah allowed them in the time of himself. So there is no discussion in it. In this part, we have no debate. We have no difference of opinion, whether Sunni or Shia. All of them believe. This is very important. I am stressing this point because we need this in later on discussion. In the time of first Caliph, it was practiced by many Muslims, many Sahabas. It was no even difference of opinion in that part. All Sunni scholars believe in this. But the second Caliph, he banned it. And he himself mentioned why he banned it. And then that is the discussion point here. We need to discuss how it happened and what was the legitimacy and what we have to look upon. The second Caliph, in his well-known and oft-repeated words, he said, please look on the words he used, and we need to justify it, and we need to discuss thoroughly about the words himself. There were two things that were permissible in the days of the Prophet, which I do hereby prohibit today, and I shall punish anyone who practices them: the mut'a of women and the mut'a of Hajj. So these are the words by second Caliph himself. So later on in our discussion, some of our Sunni scholars, they said Rasulullah himself banned in his time after the Battle of Khaybar. So this hadith was hidden, and then suddenly some of our Sahaba, they came across with this hadith, and then they applied in the time of second Caliph, and that's the reason we ban it. If that is the case, why should second Caliph use this term that it was permitted in the time of our noble Prophet, and I am going to ban it, and I'm going to punish those who oppose me, right? So if it was banned in the time of Rasulullah, right after Khaybar, whenever it may be, and that hadith was known, it was not necessary for second Caliph to use this sort of language and directly mentioning that I'm going to ban what was permitted in the time of Rasulullah. There is a good discussion. Allama Sharafuddin Amuli, the Lebanese scholar, who wrote a book on Nass wal Ijtihad, where we can do the jurisprudence, where we are allowed to discuss on the jurisprudential topics, and where we cannot. So all we agree is a consensus that where Quran and the Hadith openly mentioned and there is no vagueness in those issues, we cannot do the jurisprudence. The ijtihad is not there. Ijtihad is only where we don't have verse, we don't have any hadith, and directly we cannot take from that source, so we need to do the ijtihad on those affairs. But we find many Sahabas, after the departure of Rasulullah, they issued the fatwa on the things which was clearly mentioned by Rasulullah. And Rasulullah himself mentioned in the beautiful hadith that halal Muhammadin halalun ila yawmil qiyamah wa haramu haramun ila yawmil qiyamah. The halal made by Prophet is halal until the day of judgment. No one has authority to make it haram. And the haram made by Prophet is haram until the day of judgment. No one has authority to make it halal. So these things is very considerable, and we need to discuss that. Is second Caliph why he did so, and he had authority to do so. So based on our Shia jurisprudence, no one has authority to make it haram for something which is made halal by Rasulullah, and the opposite, the same thing, vice versa. Some of our Sunni scholars say that the Prophet himself made it haram, and later on we found out. But we come to know that how come a hadith concerning about a very important matter was hidden from many of Sahabas, among them Ibn Abbas, Ubay ibn Ka'b, and these are the very famous Sahabas. And they, even after the banning by our second Khalif, they oppose it and openly oppose it. And because of the position that he had and because of the force he used, the tone of the language itself says that I'm going to punish those who are opposing it. So because of the power, the masses was not able to do anything. So if during the history it was the wise was oppressed, it doesn't mean that the hadith was there and it was banned by Rasulullah, because the tone of the words made statement in the second Khalif itself says clearly that it was allowed in the time of Rasulullah, it was permitted, and then it was practiced in the time of first Khalif. The only second Khalif banned it. It was discussed that they may say, our Ahlul Sunnah scholar, they may say that the prohibition of the Khalif was a political or an administrative prohibition. Maybe most of the people at that time, they were misusing it, as many people they are misusing now. So because of that misuse, politically or administrative prohibition he imposed, and that maybe they may say that it was legitimate, but if it was the case, then it should be a temporary ban, not permanently, not supposed to practice even now, and not a religious or a legal prohibition. We cannot consider that as a religious or legal prohibition if the case is political or administrative. Unfortunately, the majority of Muslims, they ban it and they are not practicing it, but somehow they created a new thing. They call it misyar. In Arabs, they practice it. They name it misyar. It's very closer to mut'a marriage. So if the source of legitimacy is only nikah, the permanent nikah, then what is misyar? If the mut'a is haram, then what is misyar? So it seems that we are caught in a situation that this is something is need of the societies, especially the present days, and because of the ban by second Khalif, they want to justify it, and they are not able to come up with the same thing what was in the time of Rasulullah and the first Khalif, and they created a new thing out of the mut'a marriage and out of the nikah marriage. Anyway, it is not good time to discuss on that issue, and it is good for scholars of our Sunni brothers and sisters and the scholars of Shia. They come sit together and they can find out from the Quranic point of view and the historical background and resolve the matter, because the most of our youngs and most of our societies are suffering from this. And we come to discuss about the why the need of mut'a marriage and what may be the benefit and when it should be practiced and by who. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The one more point which we need to focus on, that if the halal of Muhammad during any condition, if we are making it haram as a secondary necessity, then it should have a legitimacy, a legitimate proof and authority. Without that, you cannot do so. We need to have a sufficient evidence to prove that Rasulullah banned it after, because this is a serious matter. We cannot say that just Rasulullah banned it, the hadith was hidden, and suddenly they found out the hadith. They need to prove with concrete proof, not one hadith. The more than one hadith they have to bring to prove that one. And since we don't have that a concrete hadith or the concrete proof, then we cannot accept it based on the Shia jurisprudence. And we see that our Imams, Contrary to this, they encourage the mut'a marriage in their time. We have several hadiths by Imam Jafar al-Sadiq and Imam Kazim alayhi salam and other imams during even the time of taqiyya. They encourage the Muslim population to perform the mut'a. That is not because the mut'a is more important than nikah. It is only because they want to revive the sunnah of Rasulullah. We have two different things here. One, the importance of the act itself, and the second thing is the sunnah of Rasulullah is more important than anything else. Though that is not needed of our time, that need of our time, right? It was not need of our time. But because the revival of the sunnah of Rasulullah, we need to give importance, and that's why, that is the reason our imams, our infallibles, they encourage. This was the situation in the time of our imams, and it is mentioned that the Imam Jafar al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam once said, one of the matters about which I shall never keep precautionary silence, that is called taqiyya, is the matter of mut'a. So in the matter of mut'a, they never use the taqiyya even at that critical times. So it shows that the sunnah of Rasulullah is so important that we should not let anybody to make it forgotten, and we have to revive it, we have to make it known to everyone until the day of judgment. Now it is good to discuss the similarities between the nikah marriage, which is permanent marriage, and the temporary marriage, to understand the importance of the mut'a marriage and misconceptions about the mut'a marriage we have to remove, because there is a lot of misconception, there is a lot of misunderstanding about mut'a marriage that leads to ban it. And some of us here in this world, there are majority of the Muslims, they, because of not understanding the type of mut'a marriage, the conditions of the mut'a marriage, they directly attack on it and they relate that this is just like a zina. It's not a nikah. But once we see the similarities and the differences between the permanent marriage and the mut'a marriage, automatically we can understand that this is just like a nikah, a little bit slight differences because of we wanted to find the solutions for, probably the Rasulullah saw the solutions for many problems in it, so he allowed and permitted in his time. And bear in mind please, I repeat it, that the mut'a marriage is permitted. It is allowed. It's not obligatory. It's not something that is the ideal. That is something we need to promote. No. That is a solution for many problems. The ideal is a nikah marriage. The ideal is the permanent marriage. If for any reason we are not able to perform the permanent marriage, there is a solution. So it is not that you fall in sin, you commit zina and adultery. No. There is another option and solution. So there is a difference between allowance and ideal. So ideal is a nikah marriage, the permanent marriage. That is the allowed. What is allowed is mut'a marriage. So we should not give, once we are comparing with permanent marriage and the temporary marriage, we should not give importance to the mut'a marriage. Rather, we have to pay importance to the permanent marriage. The similarities. Mahar is essential in both the marriage. Nikah marriage carries the mahar, the dowry, and also the mut'a marriage. Even the mut'a marriage without mahar, without dowry, is invalid. But the nikah, the permanent marriage, if we are not fixing the mahar, it's not invalid, but it goes to mahrul mithl, meaning the hakim shar, the mujtahid, the jurist will fix the mahar based on the standard of living of the couple. So it's not invalid. The nikah without fixing mahar is valid, but it goes to, automatically turns to mahrul mithl. But the mut'a marriage, without fixing the mahar, without fixing the dowry, it's invalid. But both the nikah, they have mahar. And in both the permanent marriage and temporary marriage, we have the formula has to be rendered. The nikah has to be rendered. The sigha has to be rendered. Without that, we cannot. In some of our jurists say it has to be in Arabic because the language express the totality of the formula, not in other languages. But there are other juries, they allow that if there is a lack in the language, there are no one who can pronounce the formula in the Arabic language, they can use other language, but they have to express the same what is mentioned in the sigha and the formula. And in the nikah marriage, we need to have two witnesses, two male witnesses, so they can witness and testify. But in the mut'a marriage, no need of it. Because of the nature of the mut'a marriage, we no need to have a witness. It doesn't mean that witness is not allowed, is haram. No, no need of witness in the temporary marriage. In the same way as we have in a permanent marriage, once you get married with someone, the mother of the girl and the sister of the girl and the other blood relatives of the girl become haram to get married. So mother becomes mother, just like a mother. Same way for the girl, the father and the brother, they cannot marry with them. Father becomes mahram, the brother becomes stay non-mahram, but they cannot marry in that time. So obviously the girl cannot marry more than one. But for the boy, they cannot marry the sister, just like us, the nikah marriage, the permanent marriage. So you see the similarity. All these ahkam who comes in the permanent marriage, it automatically comes in the temporary marriage as well. And also it is mentioned that proposing marriage to a permanently married woman is prohibited. The same way in the temporary marriage, if someone married temporarily, the sending propose and proposing that girl, or if it is more than 4, then proposing to the boy also is not permitted. The same way as the both. And also we have, if someone committed adultery with someone, then that becomes permanently haram. This is very important to know, that if we intend to marry someone, we should not involve in committing the crime before getting married. People say, okay, we already made the decision, then without the rendering the nikah and sigha and the formula, no one becomes mahram to each other. So once you commit adultery with someone, then you cannot marry with the person forever. The same way in the temporary, you cannot marry temporary marriage as well. Is clear? Both in the temporary marriage and the permanent marriage, they have to maintain the iddah. Iddah means a period. They have to wait after the divorce or after the separation. The only difference is in the permanent marriage, she has to wait for after divorce for 3 menstruation, but in a temporary marriage, 2 menstruation. That's the only difference. But in both marriages, you need to maintain the iddah period. So these things, these restrictions automatically shows that how important, how close the temporary marriage to the permanent marriage. The same way as I mentioned, in the permanent marriage, a person cannot marry while the wife is alive with her sister. The same way in temporary marriage. There is no difference in that. And also, the child, this thing is not well propagated, unfortunately. There is a misconception and misunderstanding about this. The mut'a marriage, the temporary marriage, also the same way as the permanent marriage in terms of children. The child, if paired with this marriage, belongs to father, and it's father's responsibility to take care of the child. And some of us, unfortunately, in this hemisphere took it very easy, and they make the children and give the burden on the shoulder of the sisters, which is not legitimate, which is not allowed in Islam, which is not something, is a Islamic practice. The father is father, whether it is temporary marriage or in a permanent marriage, and father has a responsibility to take care of the children. And now if we find the little differences between the permanent marriage and the temporary marriage, we come to know that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prescribed it and how Rasulullah allowed it, and what is the benefits, inshallah, after that we mentioned. Some of the differences. In a permanent marriage, a man is responsible, whether he likes it or not, for daily expenses, clothing, dwelling, and the other necessities of life, such as medicine and medical treatment. Unfortunately, most of us are not following this, and this has to be taken seriously, that once you are a man of a family, the financial burden is upon the man of the family, not women. If they earn even, they no need to expend in their family expenses. But in a fixed term marriage, the couple is joined by the free contract that was agreed upon by them. In temporary marriage, automatically is not the responsibility upon the man. But if they made the condition, whatever the condition agreed upon, they have to follow. Right? It's clear? It is possible that the man may not wish or cannot afford to bear these expenses, or that the woman does not wish to use the money of the man. So here we have allowed here in the temporary marriage, but in permanent marriage we cannot say that let us go to the agreement. So without any agreement also, the automatically burdens goes to on shoulder of man. The second difference is, in a permanent marriage, the wife, whether she likes it or not, must accept the man as the head of the household. As the burden goes to the financial burden goes upon the man, the head of the family is who? The man. And carry out what he says in the interest of the family situation. Yes, if the man goes wrong, they can go to the jurist or they can go to the hakimushar. That's a different issue. But in a normal circumstances, the man is the one who makes the final decision in terms of the family affairs. But in a fixed term marriage, everything depends upon the terms of the agreement they conclude between themselves. So it depends. The temporary marriage is more open than the permanent marriage in this regard, that whatever the conditions you make, based on that condition you go ahead. In permanent marriage, the third difference. In permanent marriage, the wife and the husband, whether they like it or not, will have mutual rights of inheritance. The wife will receive the inheritance and as well as the husband with each other. While in a fixed term marriage, this is not so. The inheritance is not there in mut'a marriage. The fourth difference is thus the real and essential difference between the fixed term and the permanent marriage is that the farmer, as far as limits and conditions are concerned, is free. The fixed marriage is free. Whatever condition they want to make, they can make it. That is, it depends upon choice and contract between the two parties. The fact of the marriage being temporary gives to both parties a sort of liberty. That is the main purpose of the temporary marriage. So they can have liberty. They can have, some sort of ease in their marriage. Because with regard to the fixation of the duration of the agreement, they can exercise their opinion. But in permanent marriage, there are many burdens automatically goes to the man, and there are certain responsibility automatically goes to the woman. You cannot change it, you cannot alter it. Even you cannot make certain conditions which is not allowed in permanent marriage. In the case of permanent marriage, neither of the two parties, without the consent of the other party, has a right to exercise restraint in having children or to practice birth control. In a temporary marriage, they are allowed, but in permanent marriage, they cannot do so. If man wants the children, the woman cannot deny. If woman wants the children, man cannot deny. Yes, if both are agreed upon, they can have birth control on the certain permissible conditions are there. You cannot have the permanent blockage, which is called what we call the operations and these things, but you can give the temporary control, the birth control, and you can delay having the children. But it needs to be agreement between both the husband and wife. But in temporary marriage, no. The period of iddah for the permanent, I did mention that there is a little bit difference. Both has the period of iddah, but in temporary it is lesser. In permanent is a bit more. Now, there's a big question in this regard is why it is allowed while we see the majority are misusing the concept of mut'a marriage. Honestly, I'm speaking, both the parties, those who reject the mut'a marriage are against Islam, and those who are not allowing people to practice it by whatever the means, shy or they are not comfortable with it, or they are because of the misuse of this law, unfortunately they are against the Islamic principle. The main thing is, once it is allowed in Islam, it is allowed. We cannot put ban upon it. And no one should feel shy or shame practicing this. Once Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed, you have to practice it once it is needed and allowed it. The main thing is, because majority are misusing it, why we have to blame the law? For instance, I want to give an example so we can understand better. If there is a food available here, very delicious food, but someone mixed the poison in it, can we say that food is haram? We cannot say it. But we can make people aware that this food is mixed with poison. So beware that don't go for this one. We cannot ban, we cannot change the entire law. We cannot say that food is haram. No. You can eat it, but we have to make sure that it's not mixed with poison. The same way here. If someone is misusing the law, we cannot alter the law. Rather, we have to educate the person not to misuse the law. Or we have to set up some other conditions or some other, what you call the, some placement, some law that they should not misuse it. If the majority is misusing the mut'a marriage, there are many who are misusing the nikah marriage as well. People may object that why it is short term, maybe one day or 2 days, so it looks similar to the committing sin. The same way in the marriage, if someone had end up contracting in a permanent marriage and next day he divorced, how many times? The same time, the same thing, the same objection you have on this, the same objection goes to the permanent marriage as well. So because of the misuse of some, we cannot alter the law. Rather, we have to educate those who mistake and those who misuse the law. What if we ban it? What the consequences we may face if we ban the mut'a marriage? That's why it's very important, and especially in the Western Hemisphere, in European and American, Canadian, these countries, they find solution or fixing cabarets and what the pubs and bars and these things to avoid the harassment in the families. And even they arrange some places so people can go and commit adultery there, and the families can be safeguarded from those youngsters. And these are the things essential in all societies. You cannot oppress or suppress the emotion, feelings of a youth. Rather, we have to direct it. Shahid Mutahari, I recommend all of you to read the book Women's Right in Islam, and part of it is temporary marriage. He discussed very nicely about this issue, and he mentioned that there remain two alternative ways. We may leave the young to themselves and ignore what they do. If we ban the temporary marriage, there are two options remain. Either we can leave the youth, whatever they can do. We may allow a boy to have unlawful sexual relations with hundreds of girls. That is the situation in Europe and America. And allow a girl to have unlawful relations with tens of boys and have so many abortions, unfortunately. That's the concept of boyfriend and girlfriend now became a style. If a person not having boyfriend or not having girlfriend, it's a kind of insult for them, which is not allowed in Islam. There is a formula for it, there is a solution for it. If your emotions are not allowing you to be calm, you can use it, and you have to direct that emotions in a proper way, not going unlimited. Can such young men and women who have had sexual relations with a large and unlimited number during their student life turn out to be new men of life and women of the family when they become permanently married? What is the guarantee? If the person practice the boyfriend and girlfriend and having so many relationships, and then they get married, what is the guarantee, what is the assurity of having that family maintained? Because they already, the feelings, it may remain, and they cannot control it. And that's why the entire West is suffering from this. And it's very unfortunate to say that instead of coming to the best solution which is there in Quran and Islam, they are moving towards worse situation. And the more they try to alter it, and they end up committing the worst things like the same-sex marriage, and then they're going to things which we cannot even mention in on the pulpit. This is the situation of moving away from the Islamic principles, and unfortunately, the Muslim community is also slowly getting affected from these kind of feelings. So the mut'a marriage is a solution, not an obligatory part. The ideal is the nikah marriage, the permanent marriage. But for those who cannot afford the permanent marriage, there is a solution for them, and that solution is the mut'a marriage. And inshallah, we continue some of the benefits of mut'a marriage and what are the circumstances of that we can practice, and how we are misusing, and what are the ways we can reduce the misuse of the mut'a marriage, inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. On the 6th of Muharram, normally we speak about a youngest martyr of the Karbala. Imam Hussein ﷺ, from inception of his mission from Medina, he went to Karbala, the Mecca, and then to Karbala. He was explaining to everyone that those who are accompanying us, they need to shed their blood. The sacrifice is ahead. The death is ahead. There is no position. There is no wealth. And by this way, he was expressing more than one time in different occasions, especially while he heard the news about the Muslim ibn Aqil and the martyrdom of Muslim ibn Aqil. He made it clear for everyone, those who came for any other intention, they have to leave the camp. And I want to make the purest of the human being in my camp. So Imam Hussein ﷺ wanted to have only sincere persons to support his mission. Among them who are supporting the mission of Imam Hussein ﷺ was a 6-month-old baby. This is something is hard to digest for non-Muslims and non-believers, that how can a 6-month-old baby can perform a jihad. That is something, uniqueness of the Karbala is that Imam Hussein ﷺ gave courage to a little child as the 6-month-old, and that child made a tremendous changes in the history. And it is mentioned, it is narrated that while everyone gave away their life and they sacrificed themselves for the cause of Islam, only Imam Hussein remained alone, and he delivered sermon after sermon. And those sermons are recorded, and each word of that sermon is so important that it seems that now he's delivering the sermon. Now he's echoing, and now his voice is here in the air, and we can listen once we pay attention. And after delivering his sermon, and he didn't saw any movement and any repentance in the opposite soldiers and that camp, Imam Hussein raised the voice of Hal min Nasirin Yansurni. Is there anyone to help me? This is the tragic part of history, that the grandson of Rasulullah is seeking help, standing alone in the battlefield. And the thousands of Muslims, they claim to be the follower of Islam, and they are ready to kill him and shoot the arrow. They want to even throw the stone those who didn't have any weapon. And that was the situation. And that is the most tragic part of the Karbala, that Imam Hussein, the Imam of the time, the grandson of Rasulullah, is now standing alone. No one is helping him, shouting that, Hal min Nasirin Yansuruni. Is there anyone to help me? It is narrated that it was shouts coming from the camp, the tents of Abu Abdullah Hussein. Imam Hussein turned back and came to the tents and went and saw the situation that everyone is crying. And they said, why they are crying? They said, the Aliyul Asghar, he fall himself from the cradle after listening to your voice, Hal min Nasirin Yansuruni. Is there anyone to help me? Then Aliyul Asghar, by this way, though he was 6 months old, but the Hashimite the one who are brought by Imam Hussein والسلام, the son of Imam Hussein. He is the one who is unique in Karbala. He is expressing that, oh my father, if no one is there to help you, I'm here to help you. I'm answering your call. I'm not letting your call go empty without any answer. Then Imam Hussein والسلام, took the baby on his arm and he went to the battlefield. Because of the intense heat, and his son Imam Hussein took his Abba and used his Abba as a cover. And the enemies were thinking that now Imam Hussein is fed up and he's bringing Quran to make peace with us. Yes, what they were thinking was right. It was not the book, it was the part of Quran he was taking to the battlefield to prove his innocence, to make the world understand how our opponents are cruel and ruthless, and they cannot even spare the 6-month-old baby. And then Imam Hussein said, if I did something wrong to you, what this child has done any wrong to you? Look on his face, look on his lips. More than 3 days he was not able to drink water, and even the milk of his mother is dried up. Any one of you can come and give a sip of water to my child, and no one was coming from that side. And then Imam Hussein had no choice except that he wanted to prove that how ruthless they are. Imam Hussein, according to one of the narrations, left the baby on the ground and said, if you think that because of the baby I will take the water, any one of you, those who have children, they can come directly feed the child. This is the highest amount of chance an imam can give to the persons. It is narrated that majority of the soldiers of Ibn Ziyad start crying watching this situation. This request of Hussein is legitimate. The child, the 6-month baby, is not doing anything wrong to anyone. So we should feed the water. And that was spreading across, and it was hard for the commander of that army to see this situation. And literally, Imam Hussein was winning the hearts of the opponents by this way, that, oh Ali al-Asghar, oh my son, show your innocence to the ruthless enemy. Show your innocence and show who you are. And it is narrated that the small baby, the 6-month-old baby, stuck out his tongue, and he was moving his tongue and rolling his tongue upon his lips. And that's how he expressed that how powerful this arrow towards the enemies. And truly, it was a powerful arrow. The entire enemy, the soldiers were crying out. And then the commander asked Hurmala, he was the best archer in the camp of Yazid, and he asked him to shoot the arrow. And as narrated, the arrow was not one-headed, it was 3-headed arrow. And once he started shooting the arrow, and he was not able to shoot at once. He tried twice, and then finally, once he shot the arrow, then that arrow came to the neck of Ali al-Asghar, the 6-month-old baby. It was hard for a 6-month-old baby to take such an arrow, whose elders and youngs cannot take it. Within a second, it is narrated that the Ali al-Asghar was not able to stay in this world. And then Imam Hussein والسلام, carrying the baby and moving towards the mother. How he can take this baby to mother? And he promised to give some water to this baby. But he was carrying the dead body, the martyr Ali al-Asghar, towards the mother. And it is narrated that he tried to move towards the tent, but he was not able to. He was chanting Inna Lillah wa Inna Ilayhi Raji'un. He moving ahead and then coming back and saying Inna Lillah wa Inna Ilayhi Raji'un. And this was the Imam Hussein in the last minutes of Karbala, that he had no helper except Aliun al-Asghar, and then Aliun al-Asghar is also departed from this world, and then Imam alone. I want to say, oh Hussein, now you are alone, and you don't have anyone to help you out. But the time will come and you depart from this world. But a similar situation comes to your sister Zainab. Zainab wants to go up on the horse or the camel, but she's not finding anyone to help her. She will call and she will shout, oh my brother Hussein, oh my brother Abbas, where are you? Your sister is waiting for your assistance, but none of you are coming to assist your sister. La yawm ka yawmika ya Aba Abdillah. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdillah. وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليكم مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. يا حسين.